When bash evaluates a command line to decide what command to run and what data to feed it on the command line, bash does this by separating the line into something called tokens or words. A token or word on the command line is a series of characters separated by white space, blank spaces, normally the space character. Commands, when they run, are run as the first word on the command line, and all of the remaining words on the command line are given to the command as text to work on, as a series of words. If you wish a word to contain special characters, you have to tell bash to turn off those special characters. A common example is to turn off the space character. If I wanted to create a file that had a space in the file name, I have to tell bash not to separate that text into two separate words. For example, if I use the touch command to create a file, and I put in my space file, thinking I'm going to make a single file named my space file, that's not what's going to happen. The touch command, like many file commands, can work on multiple files. You simply make a list of file names for them to work on. And in this case, touch my file, entered this way, will create two files, one called my and one called file. We can prove it by running the command and seeing that it created my and file, and not one called my space file. In order to get the space into the file name, or to ever work with a file that has a space in the file name, we have to tell bash, hey, don't split these words up. This is all one big long text thing, and the spaces are just text to be part of the name, not to separate the words on the line. There are three different escape mechanisms for special characters, or ways to turn them off in bash. You can turn off a group of characters using quotes. There's both a single and double quote for this. Or you can turn off the meaning of a single character using the backslash. To turn characters off with the quote, you surround the characters of interest with the quotes. The single quote turns off all special characters except, of course, the single quote. If it turned that one off, you'd never know where it ended. So that single quote is used to start and end it. We could create such a file by putting in the name with single quotes around it, which tells bash, when you evaluate this line, make these two words with a space in between them a single word to give to the touch command. The word just happens to have a special character in it. So the touch command will then create that file. Note that when we list the file, the ls command may well show the file in quotes. That doesn't mean there are quotes in the file name. It just means that ls is recognizing that it's very hard for us to tell whether that's one name or two when there's spaces in it. Depends entirely on the format of the output. So as you can guess, doing things like putting spaces in file names starts to make them hard to work with. So as a general rule, we don't like to create files with spaces in their names. The double quote is also useful for creating strings of characters or text characters that have special characters embedded in them without the special characters having a special meaning. We've seen in other videos that the $sign, for example, is a special character. It means look up a variable or do some arithmetic or run a command. It can mean different things. If we want it to just be a $sign, we have to turn off its special meaning. We could do it with the single quote. That would make this text appear to be the $sign for period 00 as just plain text. No problem. If I were to print out the same thing without the quote, the $sign will try to make it a variable, and it will look up a variable named 4, which of course doesn't exist, so there's nothing there, and all that's left on the line is the .00. The other way to turn off something like this is with the back quote. If you put a back quote, the character immediately after the back quote has its special meaning turned off. The back quote is taken away from the line in the substitution, and only the special character is left. So this is another way to get a single special character taken as text. When we are using the single quote, it is turning off all of the characters except single quote. We can also use the double quote, and if we do, there are some characters that still work inside the quote. For example, there is a variable called random, and if I try to display the content of the random variable, I find that it's a number. And every time I look in the variable, I get some other random number. If I wanted that random number to be part of my text and have the random number substituted whenever the text gets created, I want the $ to still work, and I want that data to show up in my text. So I could use something like echo and some text and include the $ with the variable name, and that $ is still special. It will look up a random number and put it in there in the text. And the command in memory will now read a random is and some number, which of course will get printed out. Double quote turns off most special characters. It leaves the $ working, it leaves parentheses working, and the back quote for command execution. So depending on whether you wish to have dynamic data inside your text or not, you'll use single or double quote for those kinds of things.